Hi, once again, welcome to another interesting class on accounting. And today's portion is basic terms of accounting. So, before understanding the basic terms of accounting, I think it is better to understand what is accounting. So, in order to understand the meaning of accounting, we have already taken a class. Its link is given in the description. Using that link, kindly watch the video, then come to this video for understanding the basic terms. I think that will be somewhat better. And one more thing is kindly subscribe the channel for more classes. Then press the bell icon for notification. If you have any doubts, such doubts you can put such doubts in the comment box. Definitely the doubts will be cleared. And the areas which require classes, that should also be put in the comment box. Definitely such classes will be provided. Then we are going to the basic terms of accounting, and these basic terms are very simple, and use your common sense and analyze these basic terms with the help of examples. Definitely you can learn these things in a simple way. See, Mr. Bro decided to start a business, and his business is, the name of his business is the pen box, and Mr. Bro invested rupees 5 lakh for starting that business. The person who invests that amount is known as owner or proprietor, and the amount invested by the proprietor in his business is known as capital. So one term you have already learned, that is capital. Another term you learned is proprietor. Who is proprietor? Proprietor is the owner of a business organization. What is capital? Capital is the amount invested by the proprietor. And this capital can be invested in the form of cash or in the form of any other kind, like building, land, furniture, etc. So whatever be the investment made by the proprietor, that is known as capital of the business. Then Mr. Bro decided to purchase some furniture, then some other requirements for running his business. He bought some tables, some chairs, some shelves and all for running his business. So all these things are for using in the business organization, and they are not for resale. Such items which are purchased by the business for running the business organization or for using in the business organization, and which are not for resale, are called assets. And these assets are the economic resources of the business organization. They are owned by the business organization. So what is asset? Asset means what the business owns, or they are economic resources of the business organization which are meant for use in the business for a long period and not for resale. റീസെയിലിന് വേണ്ടിയല്ല, ലോങ് ടൈമിൽ ബിസിനസ് ഓർഗനൈസേഷനിൽ യൂസ് ചെയ്യുന്നതിന് വേണ്ടിയുള്ള എക്കണോമിക് റിസോഴ്സസ് ആണ്, ആൻഡ് ദേ ആർ വാട്ട് ദ ബിസിനസ് ഓൺസ്. So in simple way, the term asset means what the business owns, or in detail, assets are economic resources owned by the business organization for use in the business organization. They are not for resale. So such furniture, shelves and other items which are bought by Mr. Bro for using in his business, then the pen box, are collectively called asset. Then this asset can be classified into two. That means fixed asset and current asset. See, these furniture and other items, they will be used in the business organization for more than one accounting period, for a long period. Such assets which are used in the business for a long period are called fixed assets. For example, machinery, land, building, etc. But in the case of some other assets, they will be converted into cash within a short period. They will be used in the business only for an accounting period. Such assets are known as current assets. For example, cash, bank balance, then bills receivable, sundry debtors. All these things are current assets. So assets can be classified into fixed assets and current assets. Assets which remain in the business for more than one accounting period, fixed assets. Assets which remain in the business only for one accounting period or will be converted to cash within one accounting period, such assets are known as current assets. Then another classification of asset is tangible asset and intangible asset. Very simple. Certain assets are having physical existence, but some other assets are having no physical existence. Assets which have physical existence, tangible assets, for example, building, land, machinery, etc. Assets which have no physical existence, for example, patent right, trademark, goodwill, all these assets have no physical existence. Assets which have no physical existence are collectively called intangible assets. Okay, then Mr. Bro, he bought certain assets that we discussed. Then he decided to purchase some stationery items and books and other items for running his business. He purchased such items for resale or for the day-to-day activities of the business organization. So such items which are purchased in the business organization for day-to-day purpose are collectively called goods. So in these goods, the business organization deal on a regular basis. So goods means those items in which the business organization deals on a regular basis. And the amount spent for procurement of such goods, that is known as purchase. Here, Mr. Bro bought goods costing rupees 2 lakhs, of which he gave 50,000 in cash, and he demanded 1 month's period for the payment of balance 1,50,000. So his supplier, he granted that credit. So supplier collected 50,000 in cash. He allowed that Mr. Bro to take 1 month period for the payment of the balance 1,50,000. So here Mr. Bro got a benefit of 1 month period for the payment of amount. The person who got that benefit of time, or that person who owes amount to the supplier, is called debtor. The person who owes something is called debtor. Here Mr. Bro is a debtor because he owes 1,50,000 rupees to his supplier. At the same time, that supplier is the person who gave that benefit of time, or he is the person to whom the debtor owes. So the terms debtor and creditor are clear. Debtor is the person who owes something or who got the benefit of time. Creditor is the person to whom something is owed, or he is the person who gave that benefit of time. Then Mr. Bro decided to sell these goods for rupees 2,50,000. He decided to sell these goods for rupees 2,50,000, of which he got 1 lakh rupees in cash and another 1,50,000 rupees for 2 months credit. That means his customer demanded 2 months period for the payment of 1,50,000 rupees. So he gave, or he allowed that benefit of time to his customer. And here Mr. Bro is the creditor, and the customer who received that benefit of time, the customer who owed that amount to Mr. Bro, customer became the debtor. And the amount earned through the sale of goods is known as sales revenue, or it is known as sales. So sales means the amount earned by a business organization through the sale of goods or service, and it includes both cash sales and credit sales. Then the amount spent for the procurement of goods is called purchase. It also includes cash purchase and credit purchase. So the terms capital, proprietor, asset and its classification, purchase, sales, debtor, creditor are clear. Then Mr. Bro spent some other amount as salary for his staff, rent of his building, electricity charge, etc. All these amount were expended by Mr. Bro for running his business as part of his day-to-day activities, and or for maintaining his shop for sales. In order to sell goods or sell his stationery items and notebooks and other things, he has to pay rent, he has to pay salary, he has to pay electricity charge and all. So such a amount spent for earning sales are called expenses. Here purchase is also an expense because he spent that much of amount for purchasing goods in order to earn sales revenue. Amount spent for earning sales revenue or earning revenue is called expense. Amount spent for earning revenue is called expense. And amount earned through the sale of goods or other services is called revenue. Sales is also a revenue. So two terms, expense and revenue. Expense means the amount spent for earning revenue. Revenue is the amount earned by the business organization through the sale of goods or service. The amount earned through sale of goods or service is called sales. There are some other revenues also. For example, interest received. That is also an amount earned. Rent received, commission received. All these things are amount earned. Therefore, such items are collectively called revenue. Sales is also a revenue. Then, his sales was for rupees 2,50,000. But he bought goods for rupees 2 lakhs. So the excess of sales revenue over his expense or purchase is 50,000 rupees. That excess of revenue over expense is known as profit. Excess of revenue over expense is known as profit. But if that expense was greater than revenue, excess of expense over revenue is known as loss. So profit means excess of revenue over expense, and the loss means excess of expense over revenue. See, a person bought goods costing rupees 50,000 and sold it for rupees 40,000. His sales revenue is only 40,000, but his expenses 50,000. That excess of expense over revenue is known as loss. In another sense, we can analyze a loss. That is, he expended for 50,000 rupees for purchase, but he got only 40,000 as sales revenue. That means that 10,000 he didn't earn. Unearned expense, that is 10,000. That unearned expense is called loss. Clear? Then another term we are explaining is liability. See, Mr. Bro decided to expand his business, for which he needs some more money, and he decided to take a bank loan. He applied for a bank loan and the bank granted a loan of rupees 5 lakhs. That means Mr. Bro owes rupees 5 lakhs to the bank. So the amount owed by Mr. Bro, or what the business owes, that is known as liability. Actually, it's a claim against the business. It's an obligation of the business to repay that amount. So liability can be explained using 3 terms. What the business owes, claims against the business, obligation of the business. Claims against the business are known as liabilities. Obligations of the business to repay certain amount is known as repay certain amount in future is known as liability, or what the business owes is known as liability. See, asset means what the business owns. Liability means what the business owes. Then this liability may be short-term liability or long-term liability, or current liability or long-term liability. Liabilities which are repaid after an accounting period, they are called long-term liability. Liabilities which are to be repaid within an accounting period are known as current liabilities or short-term liabilities. So liabilities can be classified into 2. So what are the terms we have discussed? First one is proprietor, the person who owns the business. The person who invests capital is known as proprietor. Then capital, amount invested by the proprietor in the business is known as capital. Then asset, what the business owns. Economic resources not meant for resale are called asset. Then classification of asset. Then purchase, amount spent for procurement of goods, that is purchase, maybe cash purchase or credit purchase. Then debtor, creditor, the person who owes something. The person who gets the benefit of time is known as debtor, and the person to whom something is owed, or the person who gives benefit of time, is known as creditor. Then sales, amount earned through the sale of goods or sale of service or by rendering service is known as sales. Then next one is revenue. Revenue means the amount earned by the business organization through sales or through any other way. That means interest received, commission received, etc. Then expense, amount spent for earning revenue is known as expense. For example, salary paid, rent paid, commission paid, interest paid, all these are expenses. Purchase is also an expense. Excess of revenue over expense is known as profit. Excess of expense over revenue is known as loss. Then the last term, liability, what the business owes or claims against the business. Obligations which are to be paid by the business in future are called liabilities. Example, bank loan, bills payable, sundry creditors, etc. So these are the terms. I think these terms are very clear to you. kindly give your suggestions or opinions in the comment box. And once again, I request you to subscribe the channel. And what are the new areas that demanded, kindly put such requirements in the comment box. Thank you very much.